Hi, I'm Chef Nicholas Lodge and welcome to this Flowerpro video where I'm going to introduce you to my brand new Flowerpro Blossom. So let's get started. So this is my brand new Flowerpro Blossom mold. Now this mold is a multifunctional mold, not just for, as I said, spring, which we're going to show in these videos. So things like cherry blossom, apple blossom, plum, peach blossoms, but also this has many other uses for other flowers. So let's just talk a little bit about the mold. So first of all, on the mold, there are these three main cavities. Now the one here that has got almost like a sort of heart shape, that is the one I'm going to use in this particular video for the Yoshino cherry, which is a Japanese cherry, an ornamental cherry like prunus. And I'm going to use this and show you a single and double variety. In my second video for the blossoms, I'm going to be using this one here, which is more of a sort of a standard blossom shape, which we're going to be using for the plum and the peach and apricot and the different other flowering fruits. Now, on these molds here, for example, this one, a little later this year, I will be showing and bringing a video out showing how to use this to make primroses and primula. And then this one can be used for geraniums, so for the summertime geraniums. There's many, many different blossoms and flowers can be made for this. This one can be used for citrus blossoms, also can be used for, as I said, other types of like little mini orchids and lots of different flowers as well. And then here we have, these are used for calyxes. And when my video launches of the primula and primroses, this will be used for the inside part of the primrose or primula, which is a darker color. But these can be used also for things like sweet pea calyxes and small calyxes. Then there are leaves. Now there is two types of leaf. This one has got a serrated edge to it. So there is a smaller one and a larger one here. And you're going to see that used in this video. And then I will be showing how to use the plain leaf one in my second spring blossoms video. And that is used also for lots of different like jasmine leaves and little small leaves. And then here we have, there are two types of buds. This is the one I'm going to use in this particular video. And these are going to be more rounded buds. And then in my second video, when I do the apple blossoms and things, I'm going to use slightly more elongated pointed ones. Now cherry sometimes have more rounded buds or sometimes have more elongated buds. So really it's your choice to which type you would use. Okay, so there's large, medium and small, large, medium and small of the buds. And then here, this is the secondary part of the pack. And this is the leaf veiner. So when we actually use this for the leaves, we'll have our paste in there and our wire, and then we're going to press this on, like with a lot of my other Flowerpro products, I'm going to press that on to vein the back of the leaves. And then this is actually here, it's going to be used, this is the back veiner. So when we actually make the back of the flower, we'll be using that to vein the back. And the little hole there will accommodate the sort of like the witch's hat, Mexican hat shape we're going to use for most of these type of flowers. So very innovative mold, like all of my Flowerpro, and you'll have lots of fun using this for many, many different projects. So remember, although we're calling this the blossoms mold, don't think of it just for like springtime blossoms. It really has, as I said, you will be able to use this throughout most of the year for different types of projects. So let's get started on the first stage, which is going to be the center. So I just did a Google search on cherry blossoms. There's obviously going to be thousands of images of cherry blossoms. A lot of these are actually, of course, from Japan, where cherry is very famous. Having been to Japan over 130 times, I've been to Haname, which is cherry blossom party, where Japanese workers go and sort of camp out all day. And then their work friends come and join them, and they drink and have beer and food and things under the cherry tree. And of course, cherries vary a lot. Like here in the United States, we have a lot of the Yoshino cherry as well, which is a traditional Japanese ornamental cherry. Now, of course, all cherries have blossoms, but not all of them bear fruit. Like the prunus, which is what I'm showing you, which is the single flowering and double flowering, is an ornamental cherry. Okay, and there are some varieties of cherry that obviously have little small fruits, but they're very sour, and so not one that you can consume. Whereas like Mount Rainier, for example, in Washington State here in the US, have beautiful cherries, the Mount Rainier cherry. But anyway, so cherries vary a lot. So the color of the cherry blossoms vary from white right through to quite a strong pink. And you have single variety, double variety. as do the stamens. All right, so the stamens in the middle of the cherry blossom vary in color. So I'm going to show you a couple of different color variations. But as I said, depending on really like maybe the color scheme of the cake, like if you were going to do pink cherry blossom, that looks really pretty on gray. It looks nice on very pale mint green. If you were going to do, for example, like a sort of an actual darker colored, like a navy blue, sugar paste or rolled fondant cake, like the pink would look beautiful, but also you could do a white as well. Okay. And of course, here in the United States, like here in Georgia where I live, we have a lot of thousands of cherry blossom trees. And we have in March, usually early March, we have a big cherry blossom festival in Macon, Georgia, which is a little bit south of Atlanta. And of course, like Washington, D.C. is famous. Mostly the cherry trees in Washington, D.C. Were all donated by Japan to the United States. And then we also sent dogwood trees from the United States. So in, for example, Hibiya Park, where the Imperial Palace is in Japan, you'll see dogwood trees which were given to Japan by the United States after the wars and things. So it's a very, as I said, a flower you'll see used a lot, and it's a really beautiful flower to use. So anyway, so when we make the center of the cherry blossom, we're going to start off working from your instructions. And so first of all, I'm going to show you the single cherry blossom. All right, both the stamens are the same for the single and double. Now in your directions, it first of all talks about, I'm going to show you actually talk about 3 different options. So there's option A, option B, option C. Now these are Japanese silk stamens. They're very, very tiny. All right, they're really the smallest commercial stamens you can buy. And these are available obviously like through my website, also in the UK, many companies like Hamilworth and Old Bakery carry these. But it's not something generally you're going to find in a lot of cake decorating stores. It's more of a specialty stamen. But I will be showing you, as I said, another option with using just sewing thread as well. Now these are white, these are ivory, so they're just like a little bit off-white, and then these are yellow ones, all right? And that's usually the colors these come in. Now, it doesn't matter what color you use for what I'm going to show you, because they're all going to end up looking pretty much the same. So I'm going to use the ivory one, which is the middle one. Now what we're going to do is in your instructions there, it says take 1/8 of a bunch of fine silk, white ivory or yellow stamens. This will be approximately 20. Now what we're going to do here, going to just take the wire off. Now if you only were making say 2 cherry blossoms, what you can do is of course you can just measure out like 20 stamens. What I do here is I take the stamens, and then I normally just do this by eye. So I'm going to divide the stamen bunch approximately into half. Okay. And then I'm going to then take the stamens and then I'm going to divide them into half again. I'm just using some fine tweezers for this. Okay, so you're really just dividing them into sort of 4. You don't have to count these all, but you're just going to do them into sort of 4 bunches. All right, so it's going to just put these into like 4 little bunches. And don't worry if they vary a little bit. And then what you'll do is you'll then divide each of the quarters into half again, you see? So you're just going to divide that, and you do the 3rd one and the 4th one. So you're going to have 8 little, so this will be enough. 1 bunch of stamens is enough to make 8, obviously, of the cherry blossoms, okay? So I'm just going to put these to one side because I'm just going to show you the center part of this. All right, now we're going to take some wires. You can, these are 28 gauge green wires. On your directions, it says green or white wires. I have these on a magnet. All right, so I'm just going to take a wire. It's a good way to keep them, obviously, so they're all together. And then what we're going to do here is we're going to take your stamens. You just want to tap them so they're level. All right, so just use your fingers, just sort of tap them gently. So you just want to try and get them so all of the little seed head, little end parts are all going to be at the same level. All right, so I'm going to just try and get that level like that. Okay, now what we're going to do is going to fold this in half. So this means you have approximately, anywhere between, sort of 36 and 40 to 42 or so little stamens like this. Okay, now we're going to use a ruler. I'm using here my size guide, and if you haven't seen the new plastic size guide, this is a plastic size guide, so it's very durable, and you can wipe this clean and works very, very well. So what we're going to do here is we're going to make the stamens half an inch or about 13 millimeters. All right, now when we do the size guide, so with my like Ultimate Flower Members Club, I always obviously, and in my books and things, have the sizes both in centimeters or millimeters and also in inches as well. So there are some things that are easier to measure like in centimeters, like 20 centimeters, 10 centimeters, but also there are some times where it's easier to use the half inch, all right, because a half inch is approximately 13 millimeters, okay? Now, what we're gonna do is so we're going to go from the tip of the stamen to, so this is the tip of the stamen here at the half inch. All right, so we're going to so I'm going to hold my thumb and first finger. So you see the actual length of the stamen, including the stamen head, is within that half inch or about 13 millimeters. All right. And then what you do is going to take then a piece of wire, and you can, I'm right-handed, so I'm just going to go back here just because of camera. Okay. And so you take your stamens like this, and then what I do is I transfer that over. So what I've done is, this is where I'm going to wrap my wire around. So you see this part here is the half inch, okay? And then what you do is you take the wire. Now this is the 28 gauge wire. So I put this running between so there's about a third of it above my thumb and finger and about 2/3 down here. So I'm changing back over, all right? If you need to just check just to make sure that that's about, as I said, and then you take this part of the wire and you're gonna wrap this around tightly a couple of times, all right? Now, what you wanna do is then just check that that is half an inch. And if you need to just slide the wire down just a little tiny bit, you can do. So don't worry too much about it exactly. But as I said, you can see that from the wire to the tip of the stamen, it is about half an inch, or as I said, about 13 millimeters, okay? But you need to get this nice and tight, all right? Now then, once you've done that, we're going to then just use a pair of scissors, okay? And we're going to and generally I would just do this on a little mat or something so you can get rid of these. Now I'm gonna cut cut the excess stamen, but I'm still leaving a little bit. So you see, I've almost got about 1/3, and I'm just gonna cut the excess stamen thread off. I'm going to use some nice sharp scissors, okay, and then we're just going to get rid of that thread. And then what we do is you're going to bring this down, okay, and then we're going to now take the stamen and we're going to tape it. Now we're going to use half width. Now you can either use like a color called twig, which is this color here. So this is or you can use brown. And if you look at the difference, you see the brown is more chocolate. The twig is almost got a little tiny bit of a green tinge to it. All right, so it's whatever you have. So either the brown or the twig color. And some, some places will just have the brown sort of, but as I said, you can find different colored floral tapes. And what you're then going to do is we're going to take the floral tape here. Now I hold the floral tape where the wire is, and I just stretch my tape, and I'm going to go around like a piece of string. So I want to go around a couple of times so you're almost getting that nice and tight, all right? Because it's important the stamens don't come out, all right? And then what you're going to do is you're going to just tape down with your floral tape down, and you're going to come down at least about halfway down the wire here, like so, okay? I'm just going to show you that again because it's just one of those techniques that, as I said, but this is the way we do a lot of the flower centers. If you watch my, for example, like my Flowerpro poppy with the thread, which I'm going to show you next. So you fold this in half, and then remember you're going to hold this. So you want these approximately about half an inch, but you see how you're using almost like you then change out to this hand, and you're going to bring your wire down. All right, you hold that at that point there. You take the end of the wire, you're going to go around nice and tightly. So you really want to pull it nice and tight a couple of times. So you see what the wire is going up, it's going around, and it's coming out there like so. Then we're going to take your excess thread. Of course, when you're making lots of these, you can do all the trimming at one time, okay? Going to bring this down, and then we're going to take your floral tape, hold the floral tape, go around like a piece of string about 2 times, and then just bring your tape. So this is half width tape here, going to come at least about halfway down the wire, okay? Now, once you get to that point, we're going to fluff the stamens. So we're going to just use the stamens here. So I'm using my fine tweezers, but you want to do this after following the directions. You do this after you've done the taping, because that will hold it all together, you see? So you're just going to tape these. You're just going to use your tweezers, And as I said, these are actually on silk thread, so they're very, very fine. It's almost like, you know, sewing thread, which I'm going to show you the next technique, all right? So that is going to be how we make the stamens. Now, once you get the stamens made, I'm going to show you next how to do the coloring. And we're going to do the coloring on these centers. So now we're going to move on to the coloring. Now in your instructions, it says if you've made this with white stamens or the ivory stamens, we're going to dust the thread part of these yellow. Okay, if obviously you've used yellow stamens, the threads are already yellow. Okay, so I'm using here, so this is a daffodil yellow. It's just like almost like a lemon yellow color. Okay, and then what you're going to do here, you're just going to just sort of dust that, not too small a brush, so you're just going to brush that over. And these take the color on very, very well. All right, and that's why, as I said, it doesn't matter whether you're using the white or the yellow. So of course, if you're making 12 cherry, you do this on all 12 of your stamens. Then we're going to use here Harrison's yellow, which is just like, if you look at it, it's like a golden yellow color, almost like a sunflower petal color. So you're going to then brush that onto the tips. So you're just going to put a little bit of the Harrison's yellow, so just a little bit darker. Now, if you can also take a little bit of orange and yellow and mix. And so that means you're going to, that will just go on to the tips, okay? And if you're doing the yellow stamens, you're just going to brighten up the top or darken up the top also with the Harrison's yellow, okay? So the Harrison's yellow will be used, but you don't have to, of course, on the stem there, put those on, okay? And then we're gonna use some prairie green, which is a color I use a lot, so prairie green. And then we're just gonna dust a little bit of prairie green with a round brush into the middle here like that. So you can see how this is going to give you your nice fine stamens for your cherry. Okay, now you can also, in my, towards the end of this video, I'm going to show you how to do the prunus, which is, as I said, the double flowering prunus, okay? And on the stamens on here, I'm going to use the thread option, which I'll be showing you next. But those stamens are a green color with pink on the ends of them, okay? So I'm going to be showing you with a thread version on those, but you could also make the stamens. And then what you would actually do there is you would use some color here. So you take a little bit of the, so like if you were wanting to do that with stamens, this is just the, so again, you're going to then just put the, this is just a light green. So that would go over the stamens. And then you put the green in the middle here. So a little bit of the green in the center, okay? And then you would put a little bit of pink. So you could use a little bit of pink on your edge. This color is called American Beauty. It's quite a strong pink because you're doing it on a very, very tiny amount. So you just would brush over the top. All right, this one is, most of them were done. So just gonna, so you see then you're gonna have, so this one is gonna have these very pale pink tips and then the green stem and a little bit darker green in the middle. Okay, so that's using stamens. And but you could do, some cherries have like pink stamens and then almost like a burgundy plum color on the tip. So really, as I said, a lot's going to be dependent on the colors you're using on your cake, as far as like, and of course, you know, maybe even what other flowers, if you're going to do other flowers with it as well. Now, the second option is going to use thread, all right? So this is, as I said, the second option. Now, of course, sewing thread comes in many different colors. You know, this is a sort of creamy yellow, which is really the color of like the lemon stamens. But you could also go a little bolder with a sort of mid-layer yellow or a slightly golden yellow as well, okay? And then also we can use other colors, like you can use mint green and you could use pale pink thread. So I said there's lots of different options there as far as color combinations. Now when we do the thread, all right, so how we're going to do this is generally just put the thread into a little container. I'm going to actually use my flexi scraper. So I'm going to take my flexi scraper here, and with my flexi scraper I'm just going to hold the thread and I'm just going to go around again 20 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Okay, so I've gone 20 times around there. And if you don't have a flexi scraper, you could use also like a business card, a credit card. It's sort of, but this is obviously a Flowerpro product, so I'm showing you that. It's going to go around 20 times with your thread. And then what we're going to do here is we're going to take this off. I'm going to just slide this off of the end here, like so. So you're going to have this loop. Now this will actually be enough to make two centers. All right, so you're going to have your loop here. Now alternatively, you can also go around your fingers as well, but you can actually hold like usually about 3 fingers if you look here. So you can also go around like 3 fingers also. All right. Now here, what we're going to do, this is going to make 2 centers. So we're going to wire it in exactly the same way. So here your loop, so you just hold on the end there. I'll take my wires. And then what I do is place my wire. Now you need to have enough here, right? There's about 1 centimeter or so there because you have to have enough to hold on to and also to trim as well. So you see how you have your little loop at the end here. You hold this, all right? Now this is how I did the thread, the black thread for the poppies, my Flowerpro poppies, all right? But just obviously went around more times. So your extra wire comes there. And then what you do here is you're just gonna just go around with your wire a couple of times there and get that nice and tight. All right, so you see how you've done that on one end and then on the other end. So just sort of like pull them all like level, okay? And you're gonna pull them all level. And then on the other end, we're going to take the wire, gonna hold this, all right? And again, just gonna go around nice and tight and do like that, okay? So you've got your 2. So you've actually wired both ends of this, all right? Now, what we're then going to do then is I'm just going to fold it into an arch shape. So you're just going to fold the wires into like an arch shape there. And then just going to cut that loop in the arch shape in the middle. So now that has given us 2 centers, okay? Now, just like we did on the thread, when we did the stamens, on the thread is the same. We're just going to then just trim those off. But, you know, you want to use like these are obviously needlework scissors. So they're nice and sharp. These are like little tiny multi scissors as well. So something that's going to be nice and sharp, because especially when we trim the ends here. All right. So again, you see I trimmed off. So you don't trim too close to the wire. All right. And then you're going to do the same on the other end here. And the reason, as I said, using like the flexi scraper, it means everybody's going to have exactly the same length, all right? Because if you take your fingers, you know, if I said like 3 fingers, some of you have very tiny fingers, it's obviously going to be a little bit short to get the pieces. Now here, all right, what we're going to do is we're going to bring this down. So you're going to bring those 2 like little legs down. And then again, you would just tape over the base of this. So it's going to just tape over the base. So just going to stretch that. And then just going to take and then again, where the wire is, you're going to go around a couple of times and going to tape down here like so. All right, it's going to come down the wire. You know, 1/2, 2/3 will be fine because the cherry doesn't have a long stem on it. Now, of course, don't pull the thread because they will just come out quite easily, although we've gone around. But just the important thing is with your wire and with your tape is getting it nice and tight, okay? I'm just going to just tape down here, like so. Okay, and then what we're going to do is, again, we're going to bring in our ruler here. So now we're going to make the stamens. So these need to be made, as I said, 1/2 inch or 10 millimeters long. And so these are going to be a little bit longer than you need them, all right? And so you're just going to then, again, just going to take your, all right, just trim those so they're from where the brown finishes to where the thread is going to be 10 millimeters, 12, 13 millimeters or 1/2 inch, okay? And so you just would trim your, obviously do the same on the other one. So that is how we would make the thread center. And then also you can, when you make these, again, you can change the color of this, all right? So for example, like this one here, which I'm going to use for the pruner, the double flowering pruners. This is going to be like a sort of a pinky one with pink pollen and then green stems, you see? So you can change the color of the thread. Now we're going to fluff this out. All right, so just going to fluff this out. So this is going to make your, now don't sort of tug too hard, but you see how you're just opening this out with your tweezers. All right, and that's going to be how you would make the stamens. And then what we're going to do is going to now move on to the coloring of this. So for the coloring, I'm going to take, so again, we're going to take a little bit of our green. So we're going to use the same green, so the prairie green. And this really will suffice for most of the varieties you're making, okay? So you're going to take your like a prairie green, just a light green. And if you don't even have a darker green, just use some corn flour or cornstarch added to that. And so then what we're going to do is going to take that, and I'm going to put some green into the middle of that first. All right, so you see how I'm going to have a little bit of green in the middle. Okay. And then once we've got the green in there, so you need to have some yellow pollen. Now this is commercial pollen, all right? So this is a Nicholas Lodge brand product, but also many companies like in the UK, Sugar Flare and Squire's Kitchen, and several companies do pollen. So this is yellow pollen, okay? And I've used that on my lily videos and on my tulips and some of my other videos as well, my poppy video. But you can also make that using semolina, okay? So semolina is used for pizzas and things. So it's a semolina flour. So it's a nice fine texture, all right? So you can see it's a little bit of texture in there. And what you would do is just put a little bit of that into a container. Now, for most of you, this amount would last you a lifetime, all right? You need very, very little. So don't take like, you know, a pound or 500 grams of semolina, but just a little tiny bit, like half a teaspoon, a teaspoon. And then if you add, for example, like an egg yellow color, Harrison's yellow, put a little bit of that into there and then just shake it until you get it to about comparable color to the dust, all right? So you just add enough to get a comparable color to your dust. And that is that. Now here, for the double flowering cherry, I've made actually pink. So what I did there is I just took some semolina, because this is like a custom color, some semolina. So I just took about a teaspoon. And then what I did is I added a little bit of American Beauty. Now American Beauty is quite a strong color. So I want more of a sort of a baby pink, like a mid pink color. So just add enough. So start off very lightly and then just shake it and then just get to the sort of color you want, okay? And so that would be how you would do that. Now we're going to use some Confectioners Glaze. So Confectioners Glaze, which we talked about in a lot of my Flowerpro videos. So the Confectioners Glaze is a food grade shellac, and this is used to add shine to things, but also we use this as a glue for like pollen. So like on my Calyx Flowerpro, I use this for the pollen. Now what I do here is I'm going to take the glaze, and I'm actually going to, I'm working here on some like waxed paper. So you want to just do on something that's disposable, okay? So I'm just going to put a little bit of glaze down onto there. So you just have this little, like a puddle of glaze. And so then what I do is you're going to take and you're going to very lightly just like dip it into because you don't want to sort of saturate it. And then you're going to go into the pollen like this, and you see how it's going to give you the pollen. Now, if you have any little ones that you don't get pollen on, you can just go back in, and you can just going to go over there like so. And that will be how you would do your stamens, all right? So it gives you a very nice, realistic looking center. So the other advantage of this from a sort of investment of money, financial investment, you know, obviously these stamens, you know, that will only make eight obviously flowers. So thread is going to be a little bit more of an economical way, especially if you had to make, you know, say 40 cherry blossoms for a wedding cake. So it's a little less expensive option. But obviously the stamens are very nice as well. I'm just showing you, as I said, different options there. And so that's how we do that. Now, if you have, if you get like a little bit of clumping, that means if you're too generous with going in the glaze, it's going to clump. You can just let it dry a little bit, and then you can actually just almost like comb through it with a toothpick, all right? And that would be how you'd separate if you get like a big clump of glaze, all right? And that is how we would do the center. So then if you were doing like the one for the prunus, all right? So as I said, the double flowering prunus. So if you look here, the two flowers, you'll see how, you see this is the single flowering cherry, both very pale pink. And this one I've done with the yellow stamens. This one I'm using the thread, just to show you the different options there. And but when we do of course you could do this with the thread as well. So when you do when we do this one, so again, you're just going to just fluff out your thread there, like so. And then I would just take that into the glaze. And in the second video of the blossoms, when I show like the apple blossom and the plum and the peach blossoms and the variations, I will be using both a combination of the thread centers and which I've covered in this one. But you see how you're going to get these nice, very pale pink little tips on your stamens, okay? But I found it's easier just to do this technique rather than brushing it on, because you almost get too much on there, all right? And you can see how you're going to get this. But again, if you get a little bit of clumping, you can just go almost like comb through with your toothpick, and that will just separate the stamens. All right, so you have this really nice center for your cherry. Now, the third option you can use, which would be like if, for example, those of you who are crafters working air drying clay, you know, air drying clay, if you're going to use, let's say, on a wreath on your front door, obviously the thread and the pollen would be susceptible to going soft, all right? So what you can actually also do is you can use like fishing filament. So if you just take like a fishing line, a fishing filament, this is £4 because this is what I had. But the thing is you can also get thinner, like for a £1, £2 weight, so that would be a little thinner, so actually it's easier to sort of fluff out. But you would just make the same technique as I did for the thread one. This is just in fishing filament, and I would then wire the other end, cut them, and then those ones you actually would paint. So I just actually painted this with some, I used some acrylic paint. So I just took some acrylic paint, I added a little bit of yellow gel color and a little bit of like a golden yellow gel, or you could use yellow and golden yellow acrylic paint, and I just painted these. And then once that's dry, you put the glaze on there, or you could use nail polish, and then you would use sand, all right, because sand doesn't dissolve in moisture. So you just would take some, you can buy online on stores like Amazon, you can buy like yellow sand, little different colors, and you can get pink sand, or alternatively just take some sort of light colored sand and color it with some powder color, okay? And that will then be exactly the same, but that would mean that that wouldn't ever go soft or soggy if they got moist, okay? So that's just another. So all three of these are in your instructions, so you're just going to, as I said, decide on what you have. But as I said, for those of you that don't have access to the fine stamens, I've shown you two different options. So the thread one works really, really well as well, okay? So that's going to be, so next we're going to, once we've prepared our stamens, we're going to now move on to make the flower. So for the flower, so in your introduction, it says, note, use a little vegetable fat shortening in all cavities, very light application with a brush or finger. So recently I've been using a brush. This is just a brush actually for stenciling. It's a stencil brush, and it's got short bristles, and you just keep it for that. So you can just put a little tiny bit of vegetable fat, some shortening onto like the back of your hand, but very, very tiny amount. And I'm just gonna just rub that into the cavity. But I found that this is a little bit easier than using your finger. And typically with your finger, you're often gonna put too much in there, okay? But it's a very, very tiny amount. And then of course, this brush you just keep for this purpose, all right? So this is the cavity we're gonna use here. Now, then it talks about color in the paste. Now, there are many options we have here for different types of flower paste. Like for example, this is Renshaw pink, so it's a nice pale pink here. So we can use this. The Renshaw gum paste, which I've used in a lot of my videos, usually I have 85 grams of the gum paste or flower paste, flower modeling paste, and 15 grams of sugar paste or rolled fondant. So this is actually a little bit lighter than the pink out of the pack, because when you add the 15 grams of white of sugar paste or fondant to the 85 grams of pink, it will lighten it a little bit. But this is what I use for a pale pink formula. Now, then of course you can also use other combinations. So this is the sugar in paste, all right? So this is the sugar in, which is an Indian company, and this paste is a starch-based paste. So it's a little bit stronger in that when you're working with the product, this is some that are rolled out, whereas like a lot of paste, this actually stays flexible, but you see, so this was actually like about a week old. So the paste never gets really brittle, which when you're using, like for example, for certain flowers, that can be a big advantage, having something that's a little bit flexible. So I'm actually going to use the sugar in paste, and I will be using the white sugar in paste, a little bit, tiny bit of the fuchsia pink, which is going to give me the pink. And then I'm going to also use the green as well, the moss green. And you know, this is available in pretty much every country, and I've gained through Amazon and things as well. Now here, I'm going to use, so that everybody would get the same color, I'm going to start off with a number 12 of white. Okay, so I'm going to use my size guide here. I'm going to use a number 12 of white, so that is going to be 1/3 below, 2/3 above. And then we're going to take a number 3 small of fuchsia pink. Now, this is the sugar in fuchsia. It's a very, very concentrated color. All right, so it's a really, really like a fuchsia pink color. So it's very, very strong. So I actually just need a piece about number 3 small. All right, so that wants to be a piece that's going to be a number 3 to go through the hole. And of course, if you needed more of this, you can just double this recipe, you know, do a double number amount. But you actually just, all I need here, So then you can actually duplicate the exact colors I'm using. So it's going to be a number 3 small. So a tiny, tiny amount of, so that's just going to go through the number 3 hole. Okay. And then what I would do is I'm going to mix that together. Now, of course, if you wanted a stronger, if you're doing a stronger pink, they have these nice, you know, seals on them. So you can just keep the paste in here. Just make sure you seal it up. It stay nice and fresh. And this has like a, over a 2-year shelf life. So, and you're just going to just mix this through. So because the cherry blossom petals are quite thin, that is a big advantage having a paste. Now, of course, also Katy Sue sell the air drying clay, so we have an air drying clay as well. But you're just going to just mix this through, and it's going to give you this just a very pale pink. All right, so we're going to have this nice pale pink, which is what we're going to use for the pieces there. But if you want it to be a little bit stronger, you can go a little bit stronger on this. Okay, so it's going to get this nice pale pink color, and so that is how we prepare the pink. Now just mix that through. Now also with the sugar in paste, if you, especially because it has a long shelf life on it, if it does start to get like a little bit tight, you see this is nice and elastic, there's actually some fresh, but if you have got some and it feels a little bit dense and tight, this is a little different than a normal flour paste or gum paste in that you just dip it in some water. So you just add a little bit of water to it. And you see, you just mix a little bit of water. And what the water will do will actually relax the paste. When we do traditional flour paste and gum paste, we often add a little bit of egg white. But you see, so you just add a little bit of water, and then you can just soften that, and it becomes nice and soft again. All right. So as I said, that's just the difference. So with the sugar in paste, you add just a little bit of the water to it. Now we're going to measure off the, so working through now to the flour. So we're going to take a number 7 small, very pale pink paste, roll it into a ball, and then press on top of the smallest bud cavity to create a hat. Now we're going to use this smallest bud cavity. So this is going to be the tiniest hole, all right, which is going to be this one here. So it's the one, the smallest one close to the actual shape. Remember, I've already got the vegetable fat in there. I'm going to take a number 7 small. So it's going to be a number 7 that goes through the hole. As I say, we need to get the petals nice and thin here. Now, as I tell a lot of my students, especially with my Flowerpro Ultimate Members Club, with the, you know, some of the members, like when they try things, they'll have a little bit of issue working with the paste. If you find that this is too thin for you to handle, then just go to a regular number 7 size, all right? Now, with the sugar in paste, we still condition this, so I still work a little bit of vegetable fat into it, just like I would on my normal, like my homemade Tylose paste, or as I said, on the Renshaw paste. Remember, this is a vegan product, as is Renshaw, and of course the Renshaw one, sometimes we add egg white, which you've seen on some of my videos, to make it nice and elastic. Now, so all we're going to do now, all right, we're going to take this little hole here, all right, so we're going to take this little hole here, and I'm going to take the ball of paste, just place it on top of the ball of paste, and just going to press it down like that. So you see how you're going to create this little nipple. Now, this is commonly called a Mexican hat, and if you look at it, it looks almost like the shape of a hat, all right? So all we're going to do here is just going to work the brim out a little bit, just to about number 9 size, all right? So we'll just thin it out just a little tiny bit, so it's about the size of a number 9. And you're just going to make the little top of the hat like a little witch's hat. You see how it's going to have a little cone on it. Now, we've already got the vegetable shortening into here, and I work on this side so you can sort of see what's going on. So what we do here is you place this into the mold, and I'm just going to use my finger initially, just to sort of, or your thumb, just to work it in the mold like this. So you're just going to get a very sort of basic shape there. So you see how what I've done is I've made sure I've stayed within the parameter of the mold, all right, because you don't want to come past that. Now we're then going to take the back veiner. So we're going to use the back veiner, but we're using a smooth side down. And again, this is a technique I've used on some of my Flowerpro before. I'm just going to press around the edge of this. All right. So what you're going to do, so that's going to help to squash it in. And then I take, so this is the 3 cosmetic sponge I use. This is a plain one. This one has just got a hole in it here, which we use for, you're going to see when I put the Calyx on. And then this one has got a hole in it, but it's then actually got like 4 crosses, like a cross in there. And this is made, I use this when I'm doing Mexican hat flowers. So then you put that on the top of there. So you see the little hat will come through there. And I'm just going to then press in with my, because obviously this is going to thin it out even further. Okay. All right, like this. Now we're going to now take a Dresden tool, and with a Dresden tool, I'm going to use the Dresden tool on its side. You know, normally we use the Dresden tool like this, but we're actually going to use the Dresden tool, and I'm just going to use the Dresden tool and just make sure you stay within it. So you almost pull in, coming from the hat, and you're just stretching the paste out so it comes out towards the end there. We're just going to finish it off with a cosmetic sponge, but just going to just work that down. Going to work this down, but I said this is a number 7 small. Now if you should, you know, if you are a little bit sort of rough, or if you said you end up with, like, let's say for example, you have a little area that's there is thin, what it says in your instructions, you can just take a little tiny bit off the top of your hat, all right, and then you could like put it on there, like almost like a bandage, or like a plaster or a band-aid. So you can actually just, if you can see it's a little thin in an area, you can just take from the top there. And then I'm going to use now cosmetic wedge. Now I found the wedge is a little bit easier because we don't need a lot of pressure here. So I'm just using my cosmetic wedge and just going to push that to the very end of the mold of the petal. Because this, as I said, is quite thin. So we just really just working that down to the edge of the petal here, like so. Okay, so we've got the Mexican hat part. So now we're going to take the back veiner, so that we're going to use the vein side down, and you just position this over the top. Now, when you do this, you don't want to press, you don't want to go anywhere near that ring, because it's going to almost give you like a really embossed ring on there, or a line on there. So you're just going to go around your edge with your finger, your thumb, like that. And this is going to vein the back of your, vein the back of your petals, okay? Just going to flex your mold. I'm going to take this out, so to get this nice shape. Now, we're going to use spring action scissors, okay? So spring action scissors are fine, and I'm going to just take a little tiny slice, okay? So I'm not just making a straight cut. What I'm doing there is I'm just going to do like a little cut and a little tiny cut. So it's just like a little tiny, I put it on my finger there, you can see like a little tiny slice. And what you do there is you're just going to cut to where the rim of the little rim of the hat is. Now what this is going to do, this is going to be to separate the petals slightly, and because this mold is a multifunctional mold, when you're doing, for example, things like primula or that, you wouldn't have to do that, all right? But because the Yoshino cherry has like almost like separated petals there, so we're going to do that, okay? Now we're then going to use there's 2 methods which are written in your text, all right? You're going to use your, your pad, all right, the little black side of the pad. And with my Dresden tool here, I'm going to use my Dresden tool on its side. I'm almost just sort of working around the top half of the petal, quite gently, but I'm doing this on the, so what it's going to do is on the front of the petal, you see it's going to give you this nice movement. Because it's also such a small petal, so using a balling tool or that really wouldn't do much. But this you just do gently around the top half of the petal. All right, so it's going to go around the top half of the petal like this with your Dresden tool. So that can be done, and this will be done on the soft side of the pad. And then the other option we have is to use the harder side of the pad, and we take our companion tool. Now, those of you working with air drying clay, because you can't use plastic tools successfully on air drying clay because it sticks, we use a rolling technique. So what we do here, you're going to use the needle tool end of your companion tool, and you're just going to just roll back and forward like this, a little bit like if you think of like a garret frill, when we ruffle with a garret frill, but you're just going to do this on the edge. So just roll in like this with your little, and that will do the same thing. All right, so that is how we would do this part here. So you've got your frilling on there. And of course, if you're reading, just cover that over. So then once we've done that, we're going to then we're going to separate the petals, and then on the back of the flower, work petal top half. So it talks about black side of mini pad with Dresden tool, or on its side, or needle tool on the green side of the pad. Then you're going to cup the ends of each heart-shaped petal on a cosmetic sponge. This is on the front side. All right, so what we're going to do here, we're going to use the cosmetic sponge, and I'm going to just use the ball tool end, and I'm just going to stroke just gently from the outside to the inside, outside to inside on the front of the petals. Okay, so this is going to be done on the front side. So you see how it's going to give you this nice shape to your flower. Okay. Then we're going to take the ball tool end of the companion tool, and you see how I'm holding the flower. I'm holding it between my thumb and my first two fingers, almost like in a triangle, because that supports it. So we're going to use the ball tool end to make a little hollow, okay, like this. And then with my companion tool, I would just press gently just into the bottom of my petals here. So I'm just going to use this will be my fourth, this will be my fifth. All right, so you're going to get this almost like this little, as you can see, like a star in the middle. And then with your needle tool, you're just going to make a little hole just to sort of encourage the wire to go down, because the 28 gauge wire is quite a soft one. Now remember, there's two options. The ones I have here, these were all made with stamens. All right, so these were all made with the stamens, and so this is the stamen technique. And then I'm going to show you the stamen one in this, but also we could use the thread one. Okay. And so here, what we're now going to do is going to take my small paintbrush. You don't need a huge brush here. I'm going to take some egg white. All right, so I've got some egg white here. So just going to use your rim of your little container there, get rid of your excess egg. And then we're going to brush some egg white just around the very top of the brown, which is going to be around the base of the stamens, all right? Like that. Just keep your egg white brush in a washcloth, in a flannel, so obviously that keeps it from drying. And then we're going to just take your wire through here. You're just going to pull it through, and you want to pull it so the brown just disappears. It wants to still be a little bit visible, but the brown is still a little bit visible there. And then what we're going to do is you're just going to waste the back. All right, so you're just going to waste your back there like so. And then you're going to cut that, so you're going to just waste the back there, and it wants to be approximately about 13 millimeters, about ½ an inch. So on your back, just bring in my size guide here. Oop. So here, so to your actual back of where you cut it is about, as I said, about ½ an inch, about 13 millimeters. So just trim that through, just pull off the excess paste, just remold that around. And the other nice thing about the sugar in paste, for those of you that are maybe just starting in making sugar flowers, the nice thing about it, it doesn't dry too quickly either. And it stays flexible for a long time. So, and as I said, it never gets really 100% dry. Now there's two types. I'm using the humid one. There's also an original formula. Because I live in a humid environment, I prefer the humid one, but as I said, they both work really great. Now then what you're going to do is, so once you've got your back of your flower, we're going to then just tweak it. So you can just sort of tweak your petals so they'll have that nice natural look. This is also why we made the little cut, the additional cut there, because this is a single flowering cherry. So the thing is, it means that you can get that nice sort of natural look to it. You see from the side there, like so. And then when you do this, you can take, like in the, say the 5, I'm going to show you in the finished spray. I've got, as you can see here, I've got 3 open ones, all right? And then 2 of them I've just closed up a little bit more, because that will then mean you get that natural sort of like, this process of from buds right through to half open flower to fully open flower. And so you're going to take your, so if you're going to do that, you're just going to hold it upside down, and then you're just going to just give your flower just a little bit of shape, and then you just hang it upside down. Now, you can use like a large drying rack. This is actually for canned goods, so it's a smaller one like you'd put into a cabinet with canned goods to give you room underneath and on top, because these flowers are very shallow. But as I said, this is good to hang the small flowers on. The sugar in paste is not quite as floppy as a regular flower paste or gum paste. So when you make the flowers, a lot of times you won't have to hang them, but usually I would just hang them upside down just for a couple of minutes, and you've got them, then they can go into your styrofoam foam block, all right? But as I said, you can go a darker color. If you use a number 3 small, but if you use a 3 regular, it's going to be a little tiny bit darker. So really, again, it's going to depend on the color of the blossoms you're wanting to make, or also how you would, what sort of colors combination you're going to use, and what color cake it's going on to. So that is the cherry blossom flower. Okay, so we've got the cherry blossom flowers ready now. So these are going to dry. Next, we're going to move on to making the buds of the cherry blossom. So next, we're going to move on to the buds. So we're actually going to be making 4 different sizes of buds. Okay, so we're going to be making the small size bud in the small cavity in pale green, Then we're going to make the next size up in the medium cavity. And then this size and then the bigger size are both made in the larger cavity. Of course, these haven't been dusted yet. They've got some of them have got their calyxes on, which I'll be showing you in the after the leaves. Now, so when we make the small buds and the leaves, we're going to use a very pale green. So in the introduction, it talks about making pale green. So again, I have here the sugar in paste, but this would also work with the Renshaw white and green. This is a very comparable color to the Renshaw green that I've used in a lot of my videos. But we have a number, this is a 9 small, so it goes through the hole, and a 7 small, it goes through the hole. And you're just going to mix these together, and that is going to give us this pale green, okay? And I've given you this quantity we're using. This is enough for the actual spray I'm showing, okay? But you're just going to mix this through. You're going to get a very pale gray, a pale green. Now, if you're going to color paste, like for example, pink, a lot of the brands of pink on the market are very vibrant, like very sort of garish pink. So in the US, like the Chef Master, they have a color called Ribbon. That is a no fade pink, so it means it doesn't fade, and is a very, very nice pink. And in the UK, the Sugar Flare pink, that is also very comparable to the Chef Master one. It's like a no fade pink, because some of the brands of pink are very bright, but also they will fade very, very quickly. Although we dust these, but you don't want the cherry blossoms to almost like turn white like overnight. So you're just going to put that really pale green in your bag, and we're going to use that next. Now we're going to do, each of the buds is a little bit different. So for the smallest size cavity, I'm going to take a full length 28 gauge wire. All right, so this is a full length 28 gauge wire. We're going to use quarter width brown or twig, so whatever color you used for your, so very much like when we do like Lily of the Valley and things like that. We're just going to cover this over. So you're just going to go around the end, and you're just going to tape down to the bottom here. All right, so we're just going to come down. Just going to tape down to the base here. And depending on how many buds you want to do, you can cover, 2 or 3 wires because you might be wanting to do a bigger spray of cherry. Okay, and then I'm just going to cut the little end parts off there. So just so you get a nice neat. And then I'm going to cut these wires, are going to be cut into quarters, okay? So then we're going to so we're going to cover and then cut into 4. All right, so just going to use cut these here, 2, 3, 4, okay. Now we're going to make, so you want to make a very small closed hook on the end. If you've done my ultimate filler flower, like for example, hydrangeas, very similar to a hydrangea. So we're going to make a little tiny hook on the end of this wire. So just going to come down a little bit, but it's going to make just a very tiny little hook. Just fold that over like that. So it's just going to be like a little tiny, sort of fairly small hook, quite a closed hook, all right? But as I said, sort of because we're working with a fairly small ball of paste. Now we're going to then, once we've done that, so of course you can hook as many of these as you want to make the small buds. We're going to take a number 4 ball of the very pale green paste and make into a 10 millimeter, 3/8 of an inch long sausage, okay? So we're going to take here, so we're going to take a number 4 ball. So it's going to be a number 4 here. So remember, when we're just using a normal measuring, it'll be 1/3 below, 2/3 above. That's a little bit small, there we go. All right, so you've got your number 4 small, so it's about 1/3 below and about 2/3 above, okay? And of course, you would measure off as many balls as you need and just keep those underneath a little cup. So, if you're measuring, obviously you're making 3 of these, just put the other 2 under your little cup. Now we're going to use this is the cavity we use to make like the Mexican hat, the hat shape on. So this is the smallest cavity here. And then to the other side of that is going to be the medium one, and then the large one is in the middle. So it's the three that are above the cherry blossom shape, all right? So this is the small, this is the medium, this is large. You can see obviously the size of the hole is bigger, okay? So again, we're going to take a little bit of vegetable shortening here. I'm just going to put that into the bottom of the molds, into those 3 cavities. You don't have to do this every time you use it. And just remember, when you finish with the mold, you always want to wash this with some washing up liquid, some dish soap, and then as I give it a good rinse, and then let them dry. I use my food dehydrator to dry my molds if I needed to use them soon afterwards. You wash them, and then of course also you can put these in a dishwasher as well. Now, so what we're going to do here, we're going to take your paste. So we're going to take this and we're going to make this into a 10mm long sausage. All right, so just going to roll that into a little sausage, which just wants to be about 10mm in length. All right, so it's about a 10mm sausage there. And then you can also just put a little touch of cornstarch or corn flour onto that as well, just so that it's not sticky, all right? And then what we're going to do here is you're going to take this vertically and you're going to place the sausage into the cavity. So it's going to go into the, you can see it sits in the middle of the cavity like this, all right? Now, of course, it's a lot smaller. And then once we get it into there, so then going to just press gently with the ball tool end of the companion tool, and then press gently on top, then brush with egg white on the hook and insert it into the bud. So what we're going to do then, you're going to take your companion tool, all right, and we're just going to press that very, very gently, all right, just very gently, because what we wanted to do is going to push it down into there, but also it's going to emboss the design on the top, all right? So then we're going to take your egg white, and you're going to take your egg white, going to put that onto your hook. Okay, and then you're going to take your hook and you're going to push that into the top of the bud. Just going to push that into the top of the bud like this. So you can see that the paste is in there. Then once we've done that, you're going to hold the wire and then you're going to flex the mold vertically, then horizontally. All right. So what you do here is you hold the wire. Just going to do this so you can sort of see coming around here like that. Okay, so what you're going to do here, hold the wire, all right, whichever is more comfortable. I'm right-handed, so I'm going to use my left hand, and then I'm going to squash this way, and then I'm going to actually squash this way, where I'll put my finger into that hole and go that way and that way. And it doesn't matter which way you do it, but you do it like this way and this way. So this is very much like the hydrangea. So you're going to press that, you're going to press it. You can do that a couple of times. So you see what that's done is push the paste around the wire, okay? And then what that means is that when you take this out, this will obviously hold on, all right? So you need to make sure that when you do that, you know, you press it and you press it. So you see how but you can see there that the paste is actually gone around there. And you're just going to just flex that and just going to come out of the mold. And you're going to get this little, like almost like a little 5 star on the top, all right? So just going to mold this around. Just need to have enough egg white on there. So you're just going to get this little, so you're going to get this little 5-point star there. And then all you then do is where you're going to use your companion tool, you're just going to mark down from those 5 little lines here. All right. Now you can use this one for bigger ones as well, but you're going to get these just like little lines there, and you're going to get the shape of the bud. But you just mold this around like so. Okay. And that's going to give you that will be your smallest bud. Okay. So that's how you do the smallest bud. Now then we're going to move on to the medium cavity. And then what we're going to do here is going to take a 3rd length 28 gauge green or white wire, create a floral tape bud 3 times hook times 3. So we're going to create like a little floral. So we're going to do like a little mini floral tape bud, again, as used in some of my other Flowerpro projects. And so you're going to go around the end of the wire. So just go around with your tape. You're going to go 1, 2, 3. And of course, this is soft wire, so you can just bend it with your fingers. So you hook it, and then we're going to go 1, 2, 3. And then you're going to come down the wire here, about halfway down. So you make this little tiny floral tape bud, all right? And of course, you'd make as many of those as you need. Now, then we're going to take a number 5 ball of the very pale pink. So with your very pale pink, which we have here, I've already measured this off. So we're going to use a number 5 size ball of paste. So that's going to be a number 5. I'm just showing you one of each, but of course you would, make as many of you need of each of those. So this is going to be number 5 size. So this is just going to be regular size, 1/3 below, 2/3 above. Again, we're just going to take that. All right, now this one we're going to make into a 15mm sausage. So we're going to make it into a little tiny bit longer. So it'll be about 15mm approximately. Okay. And again, we're going to use same concept. Remember, I've already got the shortening there, put a little bit of cornstarch into there. Now, so this one is going to go, so you see, we've used this one, we're going to go to this one here, okay? Because we're doing the rounded ones. You see, that will actually like nearly come to the top of the mold, all right? And then again, you're going to take your companion tool, going to press this in just gently, all right? And then we're going to take your egg white, You're going to brush your egg white onto your floral tape bud. Now, because this wire is very thin, all right, if you hold it like here, it's just going to bend. So when you put it in, you're going to hold it quite close, quite low down like this, and just going to push that into the center of the bud. So you see the floral tape bud will nearly disappear into there. This one, because it's a little bigger, you don't usually have to hold the wire. And again, you're just going to do this flexing. So you just see you flex it that way, and then you're just going to flex it that way. So you see how I've got my fingers in there, and you're just going to just do it and do it a couple of times. All right, so you can see how the wire is gone. You see how the paste is molded around the wire. And then usually what you do is just to sort of open up the mold, all right? If you're having, because these ones, as you can see, are more rounded. So they have what we call undercut. So in mold making, when something has undercut, it means that it sort of disappears like underneath like a ball. And so the thing is on these ones, and also on the green one as well, you can just sort of flex the mold a little bit just to open that out, all right? The other ones are more elongated, and you can sort of see the edge of those. So these ones are, as I said, and this is going to give you, and you get these nice veins on here. So it's got the veins on, and then we're just going to just mold this down. So you're just going to use your fingers just to mold this down here. And then with your companion tool, just again, just going to just continue the line from here. It's just going to continue down here like so. So you're just coming from the line that's on the bud. All right, so you see you have the segments there. You're just going to continue those lines down to the bottom. But you just literally don't remove any paste, but you're just going to mold it so you get this nice shape on the back. And so that would be your next one. Okay, and then the last two, which will be then moving on to the next one. So in your directions there, this is going to be the large cavity. This is the large buds, all right? So that's going to be the middle one there above the heart, all right? You can see it's got this little divot in the middle. Now those are going to be done where we're going to take your wires, and then this time we're going to make a repeat floral tape bud, but 5 times, hook and another 5 times, okay? So on these ones here, so you're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, hook, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay? And you're just going to work this down like so. All right. And we'll also do the extra large is going to be the same as well. So you can just prepare as many of those as you need. 5, hook. Now the reason why I didn't do the little tiny one with a floral tape bud is it would be too big, even a 3 times hook times 3. So that's why I just hooked those ones there. Now here on the large and extra large, they're both done in the same cavity. So that's that middle one there. And we're going to repeat floral tape bud, then we're going to take a number 6 and repeat as for the medium buds. Then finally take the needle tool end of the companion tool and press into the top of the buds to work the petal tips inwards to frill a little. Now this bud, as I said, in some future videos, I will be showing like how to make geraniums and different other sort of summery flowers. So this is being designed so that you can use it to look more of like a rounded petal or more of a slightly frilly petal. So this is going to be a number 6 size, all right? So this is going to just be regular number 6 size here. And that's going to go into there. So you have, 1/3 below, 2/3 above. Again, just condition your paste. And then here, we're going to then, so we're going to repeat for the medium bud. So we're actually going to be making this, as I said, like 15 millimeters in length, okay? Okay, a little bit of corn flour on there, especially if your paste feels sticky, all right? And then you're just going to press this into the mold there, like so. So that will actually, almost like come to the top of the mold. We're going to take your ball tool here, the little companion tool, press that in. You can go in a little bit further, a little bit firmer there because this is a little bit bigger. And again, we're going to take your egg white, I'm going to brush a little bit of egg white onto here. And then again, hold at the bottom here. Going to insert this in. All right, so you're going to insert that in till it just not completely disappears, but just disappears a little bit. And again, you see how you're going to flex this. So you're going to flex it, you're going to flex it. Just do that a couple of times, all right? So that will hold that in there. And then you're just going to just open that out. And then we're going to just mold this down. Okay, so I'm just pinching that down a little bit. And then if your wire comes out a little bit, what you're going to do there is just use your, just pull it down, all right? And then what I'm going to do here is on the top of this, I'm going to just use my end of my companion tool, just to sort of like where the 5 petals are, because this looks like a sort of a bud that's starting to open. Just going to just press on the top there. So it will actually look a little bit more frilly, okay? And that would be how we would do that one. All right, so that's going to be your, so that is your large bud. And then we're going to make an extra large bud, which is going to be done in the same way. Oh, sorry, I forgot to, and just remember to bring your, and then also, of course, to bring your, from your petals, going to bring your lines down there like that as well too. So just do that on each of them. So you're going to get these lines coming down the side. So what the mold does, it gives the effect of the bud starting to open. And then when we do the large size one, that is going to be a 6 large. Now, you have in your instructions there, 1/4 below, 3/4 above, this will fill the mold. So what we do here is you take, so that's going to be like what we call a large number 6. I don't use large size very often, but you see that is about 1/4 below the paste and about 3/4 above. But you see it's way smaller than a small number 7, which would be the next step up. So sometimes in my videos and my classes and like for the Flowerpro group and things, we use sometimes like just a large number 6, large number 9. So this is going to be done exactly the same way. And so you're just going to just take that, going to roll it into a little sausage about 15 millimeters long. You can put just a little cornstarch onto there. So this will go into the mold here. All right, and you're just going to push that in so it actually sort of goes in so it will become level with the top. And then you're going to push the, say, your companion tool in. You can go a little bit. And then we're going to take your, remember with your floral tape buds, you don't, the brown floral tape, it doesn't completely disappear into there because if not, what's going to happen is it's going to come out the end. All right, this one's a little bit deeper. But as I said, so when you push your floral tape bud into there, you see how I've got a little bit of brown still visible at the top there, okay? And then again, I'm going to press, I'm going to press, going to press, going to press a couple of times, all right? So you see that's almost pushed the paste up a little bit. I'm just going to open up the mold, all right? So you can see this one's a little bit bigger there. So you're just going to mold this around. So you see how I'm just gently working the paste down. All right. Now, so this is made so like if you were doing a flower like a geranium or as I said, a bud that's just smooth, this will look like the sort of the closed up bud. But because we want to, so you can continue your paste down. So you can just take your floral tape bud here. There we go. So this is going to be the 2nd petal and this will be the 3rd petal, the 4th petal and the 5th petal. Okay. And then what we're going to do here is on that top, we're just going to use your, see, I'm using my companion tool. I'm just pushing this so it almost looks a bit like a sort of a frilly flower. So it creates that look of the, as I said, the open bud of the cherry. Okay, the opening bud, so you have more texture. So you see the smaller ones here, all right, the smaller ones are obviously just almost segmented into 5, but you remember that you have the veining on here. It's got all the nice veining, and then these are the ones that can do both those the same, and they look like the bud is starting to open. And of course, when we color this, we're going to put some color on the edge that will really define that. So those are the buds, all right? And so next step is going to be, we're going to move on to the leaves. And then we will let everything dry. And then when we come back, we'll then, of course, put the calyx on and then go through to the finishing up. So now we're going to move on to the leaves. Now for the leaves, the small leaf is number 5 ball of green paste, the pale green, and large is number 6. Now, so we're going to use the serrated, we're going to use the 2 on the outside. This is the one that's got little serrations. So some cherry has serrated and some fruit trees have serrated leaves, very slight serration. Like a rose leaf, if you look at this compared to a rose leaf, totally different shape, all right? But very much a very, very fine serration. And then these are smaller ones and they have a little bit of shape to the edge of them as well. But we're going to use these 2. So this is the small, this is the large. Now, first of all, cherry doesn't have leaves. When the cherry blossoms and buds first come out, they're just going to be the flowers and blossoms. The leaves come when the flowers die off. Now, so when I do the double flowering cherry, when I show you that, I'm going to just use just the flowers and buds. And then on the single flowering cherry, I'm going to add some leaves. I like to have a little bit of leaves, but the leaves would come a little later. So a lot of the flowers have already died when the leaves start to come onto the tree. Okay. Now, so we're going to, again, just going to put a little bit of vegetable fat shortening into your molds here. It's a little tiny, tiny bit. Okay. Now, the reason why we don't use too much is because if you were to take, for example, here, I take some vegetable fat, some vegetable shortening, and I put it on my table, all right? In 3 weeks' time, that's still going to look exactly the same, okay? It doesn't really dry. And so the thing is, if you're too liberal with your vegetable fat or shortening, what's going to happen is when you come to dust the flowers, you're going to get like the dusting powder is going to smudge because of what's going to happen is you have to use too much of the vegetable shortening, all right? But I said, if you don't have a brush, just use a little tiny bit. So just do that with your finger. And again, just rub it very into the mold here, like so. But especially on some of the deeper molds, the little brush works really well, like on my pine cones and things. But a lot of my shallow Flowerpro items, it will help to make the paste almost stick in there. Now, so we're going to start off with the number 5. I'm going to show you the small one, then the large one. So we're going to take your paste here. And so you're going to make it into a sausage about 2/3 of the length of the cavity. So you can see here, this is going to be about 2/3 of the length of the leaf. Okay, just going to press that in with my finger, like so. Okay, and then you can use either your cosmetic wedge, because these are quite small projects. The wedge works well, but you can also use a full surround cosmetic sponge as well. But it's going to just work this into the leaf and just down, just into where the sort of the stem part, the shape of the leaf, okay? And then we're going to establish a little ridge. Now on something small like that, this is easier to do with your companion tool. So you're going to just sort of roll to create like a little ridge for the wire. You see, so I've got like a little ridge there. Just make sure your paste comes all the way to the end there, because remember your leaves want to be thinner on the edge. So we're going to use here, so we're going to use a 28 gauge white wire, all right? And the reason why we're using white wire here is because if you use green wire, it's going to be, because it's a very pale green, it's going to notice. All right, so again, I'm going to just dip my wire into my little egg white. It's going to remove my excess egg. And then we're just going to take the little channel here and just going to fill that, just tickle your finger. That's going to go into the leaf about halfway in, okay? Remember, if your wire sort of sticks out, just pull it back in and just hold with your finger, just going to go over the top there, like so. Now we're going to take your back veiner. So just like all of my, obviously, Flowerpros that we've done back veiners for, you're just going to line this up so you see that the wire is in the V shape. All right, just going to just press that on the top there, like so. And so then you see how you're going to get this beautiful veining on the back of your leaf, okay? Just going to flex your mold, going to take your leaf out. You see how you're going to have this lovely serration, these little tiny serrations on the edge. And on the back of the leaf, all right, what I'm going to do here is I'm actually just going to use that technique of using my companion tool needle. And I'm just like rolling very gently because the leaf doesn't really have a lot of movement into it. So we're just gonna go along the edge here like this. So you're just going to get just a little tiny bit of movement. And then on the front side, we're going to hollow this around the needle end of the companion tool. You're going to pinch it like a taco shape. So you get that like Mexican taco, like a V shape, all right? And then we're going to dry that in convoluted foam. And so this is a convoluted foam former. So you just dry the leaf in there. You'll see when it dries, it's a little bit lighter, okay? Because obviously when things are wet, they're going to, once they dry, it happens with paste. And then when you do the large one, I'm going to do exactly the same technique. So I'll just show you the large leaf. And then we've got now all of our components. So we've got our flowers. So obviously make as many flowers as you need. You're going to make then buds. And you make your leaves, and then these need to dry. And of course, if you want to speed up the drying of this, you can use about 2/3 of the length. Just press that in with your fingers, all right? But you can use a food dehydrator, which I use for a lot of my classes and videos and things, so I can dry things quickly. So a food dehydrator, you just would pop these into the food dehydrator at 115 Fahrenheit, about 45 degrees centigrade. And literally you just put them in the food dehydrator for about 2 hours. They would be totally dry. And this is also great, a food dehydrator, because I live in a humid environment here in Atlanta. And and when also with my Ultimate Flower members, my Ultimate Flower Members Club, a lot of the times we're doing sort of projects where we're doing a lesson, like a virtual lesson. So the thing is, the students will often have to make a cone and then let it dry and then to the next stage. So they can just, while they're making something else, pop that in the food dehydrator. So a food dehydrator really helps. But as I said, when once these are dry, you're going to then, of course, move on to the next stage, which will be the calyxes and then the coloring. So here you can also use your finger to create like a little ridge. Just gonna just see how I'm just sort of working with my, to just make, it needs to come about halfway down just to make a slight ridge there. And then we're gonna take your wire. Again, just gonna put that into the, and this wants to just sort of go into about halfway into the leaf. Okay. And then we're going to take the back veiner. Now, this is obviously what we use for the flower. This is the back veiner here. All right. I found they were very convenient. When I designed this, the idea would be if you wanted to, you could actually cut that with a pair of scissors. It's just because when they're manufactured, it keeps them together. But I would suggest just keeping it like this because they don't get in the way. And it means you'll always have those when you need them. Now, if you press this on the top, all right, so like, for example, let's say I did that on purpose. You see how the vein goes a little bit off. You can just repress it. But if you generally line that up, I'm just going to press down the middle there, like so. You're going to get your nice vein in. Just going to flex your mold. Just going to mold around the bottom. So remember, on the back of the leaf, I'm just going to just define that. So literally, as I said, just going to use my, and when I do this, I usually find if you actually just lift your pad up like this. So you see what I'm doing is I'm just using my little companion tool like this. This also doesn't disturb the veining on the back of the leaf as well, whereas if we used a balling tool, it would. But I always want that like little tiny ruffled edge, so I really don't want to have more of a softening that we'd normally use for a lot of foliage. And then again, you're just going to just hollow the base of your leaf around your companion tool. You're going to pinch this like a taco shell, so you're going to get that slight V shape. And then you're going to then just put that in your convoluted foam like this to dry, okay? And that is how we would dry the leaves ready for coloring. But as I explained, you know, you don't always have leaves on cherry, okay? Because when cherry is very early in the season, it's just going to be the flowers and buds, then the leaves come later. So that's really, this is an optional step, all right? I like to use a few leaves because it sort of just, to me, gives it a little bit more of a sort of a contrast to the flowers. But as I said, in the double flowering cherry, I'll be showing you at the end of this video, I will be using just the cherry blossoms. So we're now going to continue with the calyx. The calyx obviously goes on once the flowers and buds have dried for a little while. They don't need to be totally dry. Now, on the mold here, there are two calyxes. All right, there is a small calyx and a large calyx. These can also be used for flowers, all right? And in, for example, some future videos showing the use of this, like using these for example, the middle of a primula, and you can use these also for like little jasmine type of flowers as well. So anyway, for when we do the flowers, so on the actual blossoms, the flowers, I'm going to use the larger calyx, all right? And then for the buds, I'm going to use the smaller calyx. And when we use this, we're going to use our pale, very pale green paste. So we're going to start off with a number 7 ball of very pale green. This is the green we use for the leaves. There's going to be a number 7 size ball of paste. So this is going to go into the size guide. So 1/3 below, 2/3 above. So just a sort of standard size green, or standard size measuring. We're going to condition this a little bit. And then what we're going to do here, we're going to just roll this into a little sausage. A lot of times when I'm rolling like sausages, I work on a little silicone mat. It just gives you a little bit of almost like traction. This you can obviously just use a regular size, a little mini mat. And so then we're going to roll this into a sausage. Now it doesn't matter how long the sausage is, as long as it's sort of the same approximate diameter along. Okay, just make sure the ends are fairly square. You can also use your little scraper for that, so you can actually just level out the ends so you see you have the sausage there. All right, I'll just take it off with a little mat, it's a little easier to see. And then what we're going to do, we're going to cut this into 12. Okay, so we're going to cut it into, first of all, into quarters. Okay, like so. And then each quarter will be cut into 3. Now, this is a way that when I teach, and on some of my videos, I've shown this technique. For example, when I did my wedding foliage video, I used this method. And it's just a way of, rather than physically, because what we're actually making here is we're making like number 3 size balls of paste, but rather than measuring like 12 number 3s, this is just a quick way to do it, you see? So then we would take your, you see these will actually then give you like number 3 size balls of paste, you see? Now we're going to keep these under a little pot. Now, of course, this will be dependent on how many cherry blossom flowers. In the spray I'm going to show you with a single cherry blossom, I'm just going to use just 5 flowers. But it's obviously if you were doing a bigger cake or whatever, you could vary that. Now, so you're going to keep those under a little pot to stop them drying. We're going to take your larger cavity. We're going to put a little bit of the vegetable shortening fat into that. We will also do the small one as well, because we're going to be doing that in a moment. We're going to take your, as I said, this is a number 3 size. Just going to place that into the middle of the mold. Press it in with your finger. And then we're going to use the Dresden tool. And we're just going to literally just pull with the Dresden tool, we're going to pull the paste into the tip of the mold here like this. All right, so you see, so it's going to be very thin, which is what we want. So you're just going to pull that into the 3rd, going to pull that into the 4th, and you're going to pull that into the 5th part of the mold. Okay, and then you could just use a cosmetic sponge or your finger just to sort of press that in. Now, because the cherry is a sort of like the back of the cherry is sort of cone shape, what we're going to do here is, because we'll have a little bit of overlap, we want to make a little cut between each of these sections to allow for the calyx to slightly overlap. Now, I found the easiest way to do that is to use your companion tool, and literally all I'm going to do here is just with the companion tool, as you can see, I'm just going to just pull in just a little tiny bit from where the calyx, from where the mold finishes. I'm just going to just separate this just a little tiny bit, and this will be the 5th one here, there, like so. Okay, so here you can see the little cuts in between. All right, and then we're just going to flex. Now you can just flex this, take it out of the mold, and then I'm going to turn it over. I'm going to put it onto a cosmetic sponge, and I'm going to use my needle tool end and just pull from about halfway down, so the end half of the calyx will have a little bit more of a point to it, and will also be just a little bit, as I said, almost like a slight taco shape. And then we're going to use the ball tool end, and we're going to cup the middle of this. All right. Now we're going to take some egg white, and I'm going to brush the egg white, and my egg white is going to just be brushed into the sort of the middle area and just about halfway down. So just almost about halfway down. You don't have to do it all over. So you're just going to go into the middle and just about halfway down just each of the calyxes. And then just remember, keep that in your wet towel. So we're going to do this onto your flowers. Now, so what we're then going to do is we're going to take the wire, you're going to push the wire through the middle like this. You're going to put this onto your cosmetic sponge with hole, and then you're going to pull the flower. So you see how the flower, the calyx will just come up onto the base of the flower. And then there's 2 ways to do this. You can either use your fingers just to squash this on. Because this is quite tapered, you see you'll have a little tiny bit of an overlap here on your calyx. Or you can also, when you do this, you can just take that on your cosmetic sponge, and then with your cosmetic sponge, you can just push it on with your cosmetic sponge like that. But you see how that is why we made the little cuts, slight cuts between, because this is when you have a flower that's more rounded, all right, like a rounded base, for example, then you don't have to do that. But if you have a flower that is more tapered, this means that the calyx will fit on. And then I'm just gonna open that out just a little bit. So just going to use my little companion tool just to open that out just a little bit like that. And there we will have our beautiful calyx. All right. Now you would put that onto all of the, onto the flowers. All right. And so that would go onto all of your flowers. Now that would also include in the next part of this, because this is going to be a 2-part video. In the second part of this, I'm going to be showing double flowering cherry, and then how I actually color the cherry and how I put the branch together. So again, you see how you would do the same on the obviously double flowering cherry. So for the flowers themselves, you'd use the, as I said, the larger of the 2 cavities. Okay. Now when we do the buds, okay, so obviously when you've got all of your flowers, you can just, if you have any remaining paste, you can put that back into your little pot. So then when we do the buds, we're going to repeat the process with the small calyx, which I'm going to show you that. And here what we're going to do is going to use a number 7 small, okay? So we use a number 7 for the large size calyxes into 12, and here we're going to have a number 7 small. Okay, so you just want to just mold that so it goes through the hole. All right, so it's going to be your number 7 small. And again, we're just going to just condition this. And I'm going to condition it, and then we're going to roll this into a sausage and cut this into 12. Now, of course, if you're doing a big spray of cherry for a wedding cake, you might need to repeat this 2 or 3 times. But your paste that we started off with for doing the leaves, that for the spray, you'll have more than enough to do the 5 leaves and then, of course, the calyxes on your flowers and buds. But you might need to do a double batch of the green if you have more leaves and more buds and calyxes to do. So we're going to cut this into quarters. Okay, and then I'm just going to show you a couple of these. But anyway, so you just cut the quarters into thirds. All right, and then these will actually make number 3 small size, you see? So that actually will go through the number 3 hole, okay? So just really you just have a smaller version of your pieces. And again, just keep those under your little pot. So exactly the same technique, all right? We're going to take your number 3 small, but I said 1/12. See how you just press this in with your finger. So you see what it's going to do? It's a little bit like when we made the cherry blossom, when we did that first part. And then here we're going to use your Dresden tool. Now remember, this is called the Dresden tool, Dresden veining tool. The flatter end here is the Dresden tool. This gets its name from Dresden in Germany. Then this is the veining tool, which is the thin end. So we're going to just use that. So you just literally use the Dresden tool flat, and we're going to work this. Now, you remember back to when I showed you the cherry blossom flower, we used that Dresden tool like this, almost like stretching. But here we're actually using it to stretch to the end of the cavities. Okay, and then you can just to even that up, you can just press it in. You can also just rub over your finger as well. That just makes sure you don't have any sort of excess paste. And then here, this is where we're going to take your, so literally what I'm doing is I'm just using my little companion tool, and I'm just almost just sort of scratching where the natural, you see how you're going to get these little tiny lines that will just come into there. So what it's doing is just dividing the calyx. So when we put it around like a sort of tapered base, that it will come around, okay? And you can also, another way you can do that is just pop that out with your companion tool as well. So you're just going to pop it on your, as I said, Cosmetic Sponge. I'm just going to use the needle tool end of the companion tool. Just going to just come down each of the pieces here, like this. Then we're going to just cup that in the middle, like so. Okay, taking your egg white. So then we're just going to put a little bit of egg white just about halfway down the calyx here, because this is what we call a loose calyx. Sometimes we do fitted calyxes on some of my flowers. I've shown the calyx is fitted, and then sometimes the calyx is loose, where it actually almost sticks out. Now when we do this, so we're going to take the buds, and this will be the same on all 4 buds. So you're just going to take that, going to go through, going to just pull this up. You see, you can just use your Cosmetic Sponge here, just mold this around, and then you're just going to take your calyx now. I'm just going to open that out just a little bit like that, okay? Now the very large bud, you could even use the same size as the flower, but when we come down to the little tiny one, this is where, as I said, so the smaller ones, definitely you would use a smaller calyx. And so you're just going to show you on this little small one, so you have an idea about the sort of the size. So just press that in. You can either use your fingers there or your Cosmetic Sponge, and then we're just going to stretch this to the end of the calyx. Okay, but this is not filling up the calyx because you want this to be quite thin. Again, you're just going to work so just with the needle tool end, you just almost like scratching just a little bit, and this won't damage the mold. Alternatively, you could also take this out and then use a pair of scissors, but I find it actually easier. It gives a nicer shape to do it while it's in the mold. Just flex it slightly, just going to pop this out, and then again, we're just going to take this, just going to use your needle tool. This is on about the end half of the little calyx. I'm going to cup this, and then again we're just going to put a little bit of egg white just sort of in the middle, about halfway down, and then we're going to take, so this would be like your very small bud, Of course, this is the same green as the bud is made from. Again, just going to put this in here like this, just mold this around. And again, you're just going to open out just a little tiny bit. Okay, and that will give you a little tiny calyx on your bud. Okay, so those will be your components. So we have obviously the cherries. You have your cherries with the calyxes on. You've got your little buds with your calyxes on. And remember, you can use like little straws. These are just like little cake pop straws or cocktail straws you can use. Because remember, when you have thin wires, they often will bend when they go into there. So we have, now we've made our cherry, made our cherry buds, we made our cherry leaves, so we have calyxes on our components. And so that is, will be the end of this part, the first part of this video. And so as I said, in the next part, I'm going to show you how to actually make the double cherry blossom. And then I'm going to go on to show you the coloring on the single cherry, the cherry leaves, the cherry buds, and then the coloring on the double cherry. And then I'm going to show you how to wire both of them into a very realistic spray to go onto a cake. So I hope you enjoyed the first part of this video using my Flowerpro blossoms to make single cherry blossoms. And I look forward to seeing you in the next part. So see you in part 2. Bye.